Hello everyone, it is me, Ben, from Ben by the Books, and I'm so excited to finally get to the end of the month video. I know I'm a few days late because of Memorial Day and a couple of things that were going on, but again, so very excited to get into this video for what I've been reading in May, and oh my goodness, cannot wait. Again, if you like what you're about to watch, or if you want to see more, remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, send it out everywhere. Again, I'm going to be going over the going over the books that I read for the month of May in this video, and we have a action-packed video planned out, and we're going to get right into it. But first, couple other things I wanted to go over. I did create a Substack, so there's a Substack. There's a link that's up on the channel description. It's under the same name, Ben by the Books, but the official Substack website is called the GBU Experience, so the Good, Bad, Ugly Experience. I'm going to be putting up some of the book reviews and other things I'm going to be doing there that are not going to be in videos. So again, if you have a Substack, check that out, subscribe to that, and look at some of the things that I've been writing. I have a few posts that are up there already for people to see, and hopefully a few more. And speaking of Substack, we're going to go over the first book that I wanted to talk about a little bit, that I actually wrote an article for on Substack. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but this is technically my review for it. It was this book, To the Bright Edge of the World by A1 Ivy. Again, I'm not going to go too much into this one. I wrote my own review on the Substack about this one, but I wanted to mention it here that this one was one that I was kind of wishy-washy on. Again, you can see the full review on the Substack. I believe now you have to pay to see the article, because after a certain time, all the older ones, you have to pay to see those. So if you want to see my in-depth review of this book, this one here, To the Bright Edge of the World, you have to check that out on the Substack, definitely. And let's put that there for a moment. And also, other good news, I wrote my own little novel here called Alan Notchwood and the Cathedral's Curse. It is now up on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. There's a print version, and there is a Kindle ebook version for this one. This is my second novel. I haven't really done much with the first one, but this one has been getting some sort of reviews online and stuff like that and so on. So if you want to check it out, check it out. This is about a veteran called Alan Notchwood who returns home looking for his fiance and realizes that his quest for his fiance actually turns out to be more than what he bargained for, and he ends up going up against a billionaire and evil spirits and a bunch of other really cool, interesting things for a last gasp adventure. So if you like those types of adventures, definitely go to Amazon and buy an Alan Notchwood and the Cathedral's Curse. Again, you can get a print version of it. It's not a very long book, it's about 175-ish pages, so it's a short novel. And again, there's also an e-version for that one. Now that we got the announcements out of the way, we're going to get into the books that I read for the month of May. And oh my lord, May was such a very tough month. It was very busy. It's very hot. I have to deal with the kids. I have to deal with my wife being always super hot. Our house is not very well air conditioned, so it gets a little cranky in here after a while. And I'm so happy that the month of May is finally over. It's been very, very busy on the work front, social life, parties, stuff like that, and so on. And I did manage to read a few good books that were kind of okay, I guess you would say. And I mentioned that I read To the Bright Edge of the World, so I'm not going to go into that too much. Again, that review is on the Substack. The next book that I read, which was The Long Walk by Stephen King, aka writing as Richard Bachman. And I had always heard of this one, and I was actually very excited and tempted to read it. So when I saw that there was a movie, this is the picture on the front is actually from the movie that just came out. Never seen the movie, have always heard of this book, and I was very, very tempted to get it. So when I had the opportunity to get it, I got it. It's gonna go over the good. Anything by Stephen King is generally good. It's just generally good to read. Flow's nice, characters are good. This one though, I don't know. I was kind of mixed on this one, I'm not gonna lie. I liked the dystopian part of it, how it's a dystopian government. They have to do this long walk, but it seems like they're not really forced to do it. They kind of sign up to do it, and then if they drop out, they obviously get shot and they die. So this one was definitely an interesting take on the dystopian. I don't really understand what Ray Garrity's, he's the main character. Don't really understand why he decides to do this against everyone's you know, ambitions, or against everyone's warnings telling him not to do it. And he just does it anyway. Again, this one was just okay. There was nothing bad about it. It's just, I guess you could only say the only thing that's really bad about it is there's not, like, the ending was just kind of, it just kind of ends, and there's no real winnings. I guess you would say winnings. So they do this whole thing of walking all these miles and then nothing happens. So it gets really, I thought that was kind of disappointing, because it's like built up, built up, built up, built up, you know, get the prize, get the prize, get the prize, and then nothing. So I don't want to say that this one's not bad. It's just I don't understand what the purpose of the walk was if the prize isn't mentioned at the end. Just didn't really fit or sit well with me. But again, the suspense in it is good, and this is another example of just Stephen King taking normal things and making the normal things scary. So again, he takes this, in this example, it's walking. Whereas in some of the other things, like normal things, like in Christine, talks about cars. He makes cars scary. He makes dogs scary. So he takes normal things and makes them downright scary. And that's the beauty of reading things that are written by Stephen King, because again, he can make the normal things scary, suspenseful, interesting to read. I like the concept of the dystopian government, because it brings back a lot of memories of, you know, 2008 through 2012, 2013 era, when all the dystopian books are coming out. So I'm talking about Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, all these other dystopian novels that have to deal with teens going up against government and oppressive and all that stuff. So I liked that part of it. Again, I just don't understand why there's no prize mentioned at the end, and it just kind of ends. And a lot of the characters, except for the main group of characters, a lot of the characters are kind of forgettable. So that also doesn't really help. On my Goodreads, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I couldn't get it any lower because, again, it is Stephen King, and it's one of his earlier works as when he was writing, so I don't think it's that bad, but again, it's just not, it's a Stephen King book that I don't think I would go back to. If I were to go back to a Stephen King book, I'd probably go back to Christine or Misery or Salem's Lot or any other Stephen King novel. This is one of those very rare exceptions where I probably wouldn't go back to read it. If I had the opportunity to read it, I'd probably read something else that is written by him. Next, we move into The Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And again, this one was another one that was sitting on the shelf for a while. This one's actually my wife's book. So she got it, she read it, she absolutely loved it. But again, my wife likes to read a lot of the slice of life books and a lot of books that are about, you know, motherhood and humans and human interactions and all this stuff. So when I was reading this one, I was more intrigued about the octopus, because there's parts of this book that are talking about, are from the octopus point of view. So I liked that part. The family human stuff, I kind of wasn't sold on it. It kind of got a little confusing at times. There's, you know, infighting between some of the family members. There's, you know, it's an old lady group that's meeting, you know, every now and then, and they just kind of knit and talk about gossip and all that stuff. So this is a very female-centered book. Nothing against that, but it's just, it just wasn't for me. I like the parts about the octopus. If this book was told completely from the point of view of the octopus, it'd be a little bit different. But the parts of the octopus are great. How Marcellus is his name, how he's able to get out of his cage and mess with the humans and do all these other kind of fancy things that you would think that an octopus wouldn't be able to do. That stuff I liked. What I didn't like was the stuff between the main character and her problems, and then there's, you know, some of these other side characters like Cameron and Ethan and all these other characters that kind of come into this woman's life and try to make her life easier. Some of it was just, it just kind of lost me after a while. The twist at the end, I was kind of expecting it. Again, when you're hanging around some older person for a long time and they kind of have an inkling that there's some sort of relationship there, I kind of already felt that there was going to be, like, they were going to be related. So the main character and Cameron, I believe, are like grandmother, grandson, so they're kind of related because of an affair that happened and a bunch of other random things that weren't good. So this was like a part mystery, part, you know, family story. This one I gave 3 stars. It wasn't bad, but it's just something that I wouldn't read. The stuff with the octopus is great. The other human interaction stuff can get kind of lost in some of the translations, and it can get kind of lost when you're reading them. Again, it's not a badly written book. It's just not for me. It's just something not for me. I don't know why I keep reading the books that are the slice of life books when I know that I absolutely don't like them. It just happens. They just happen to be next on the shelf. And as you can see behind me, I'm trying to read a bunch of books that are on my bookshelf. And I believe I have 2 more shelves to read that are in my middle shelf. And a lot of these books are in the middle shelf for all these like little slice of life books. And this kind of just happens to be next on the list. And again, just reading it to read it, gave my review on it, and that's really it. Next, now we're moving into some of the better ones for the end of May. So the next one is called The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak. Now, I mentioned this on my Substack that I did a post or an article about all of the best horror books that were not Stephen King books. Because again, when we think of horror, we probably think of Stephen King, and believe me, there's more to just reading horror books than Stephen King. That whole analysis is on the Substack, so if you want to read that, you should definitely go subscribe to that to read the entire article. But one of the novels I mentioned in the book was another novel by this guy, Jason Rekulak, which was called Hidden Pictures. This one, The Last One at the Wedding, is his second, or I believe it's his third novel, but this one I've been wanting to get for a long time. And when I finally had the chance to get it, I got it. Now, what is this one about? This one is about a UPS driver named, I think his name is Frank, and he gets a call from his daughter, and his daughter says, hey, I'm getting married in this secluded, rich area in New Hampshire that's owned by this person, in a fictionalized version of the US where this billionaire makes a electric car battery that lasts forever. So, you know, his daughter, Frank's daughter, Maggie, is marrying into this guy's family. The person she's marrying, his name is Aiden, and his dad is like this massive billionaire. So there's a lot of tension between Frank and Maggie because they haven't spoken in a while, and Frank just doesn't like what's going on. He thinks everything's off. He thinks there's something that's just not right about how everything's going on. And you can kind of, when you're reading this book, and there's just that tension between, you know, a father and a daughter, and it kind of brings more of the human side. It's something that eventually I'm going to have to go through with my own daughter, at some point, where she decides to get married, and I have to meet the in-laws and meet the son-in-law and make sure everyone is okay. This one really brings that to the forefront. Frank is super suspicious about everything from the beginning of this book to the end, and again, all of his suspicions prove true somewhat until the very end, where things are a little bit fuzzy. I liked this one because it was something different. In Hidden Pictures, it kind of followed a similar style of, you know, just kind of building up the suspense till the very end, and then just kind of explodes at the end. This one does that, but it does it a little bit differently. And I finished this one in, I believe, a couple days. I was so hooked on it from the moment I started reading it until the moment I was done reading it. There's nothing really bad about this one, other than that, I guess the only thing you could say that would be bad would be the villain's very stereotypical. It's a very it's a villain that's always the villain always ends up being super rich, especially in the more contemporary stuff that's coming out. Even my own novel, the villain is kind of super rich. Same thing in this one. The villain's super rich, and as always, the people who are super rich are always very corrupt. There's also a lot of very nasty things that were going on in this book. So this one kind of promotes or alludes to the themes of, open marriage and open relationships and being married but not really being connected to the person that you're married to. Rather, you're married on paper and you're married for assets, and that's kind of what this wedding was. And then another thing that also was very sickening was the fact that towards the end, all of the super rich individuals wanted to go after this one girl who was at the wedding but had nothing to do with anything that was going on. There's also a couple other scandals that are mentioned between some of the characters. The townspeople that live in around this compound called Osprey Cove, they don't like the gardeners or the super rich people. They don't like them because of how they treat them, and there is a murder. So it's almost like Frank is very suspicious from the very beginning, and then it also kind of goes off into the side adventure of him trying to figure out the murder of the woman of this young girl that was supposed to marry Aiden, and then it didn't happen. And a lot of it again ties back to Aiden's father, who is the main villain, and he has all the money in the world and kind of uses his money and his influence to cover up all of his crimes. The ending for this one wasn't really as satisfying as I wanted it to be. I was more expecting Frank to overcome the villains and actually, kill them, because that's kind of what happens. But in this one, it doesn't really happen. It's more like they're arrested, and that's kind of it, and the court system kind of takes them on. I wasn't expecting the twist towards the end of this one, which was that Frank ends up finding out that Maggie, his daughter, was in on the whole scheme to begin with, just to get money. And that's just, that kind of blew me away. Because again, she was the one that called Frank and said, hey, I'm getting married to this guy. And I just did not expect, someone to be that, just that rude or that low to just try to marry somebody for money or power or whatever. Another thing too is Frank still believes that there's a part of Maggie that's like innocent, but she's obviously not. But you find out later that she framed a lot of girls at college and like committed arson and did all these very bad things and tried to hide it, and didn't do a very good job hiding it, which is why she ended up being with Aiden. This one I gave 4 stars. I couldn't give it 5 stars because, again, Hidden Pictures is so much better than this one. This one's still good, but it's not Hidden Pictures quality, if that makes any sense. Again, I go more into about Hidden Pictures on the Substack, so you have to read that article to figure out what I'm actually talking about. But again, this one was still good. Jason Rekulak definitely delivers. And so again, I would highly recommend reading it. And I just can't say enough about it. This would be one, I know I talked about earlier about books I go back to reading. This one would definitely be one. This one and Hidden Pictures I would definitely go back to reading. This one's one that I generally enjoyed. And then next is going to be this one that is called Falling. I know it's kind of hard to see what it is, by T.J. Newman. So this is, I believe, her first novel. Again, this was another one that was on the shelf, and I hadn't really had a chance to touch it. This one was about a pilot named Bill. His family, his wife Carrie, son Scott, and little daughter Elise are kidnapped by this terrorist named Sam, and Bill has the choice of whether either crashing a plane full of 150 people or lose his family. And this one was very written when I was reading. This reminded me of a lot of post 9/11 incidents with planes being hijacked and terrorists and all of those stuff. So this one kind of gripped me from beginning to end. I generally liked this one. Again, just brought back a lot of memories of, 2001, 9/11 hijackings. I would say that this one kept me interested from the beginning to the end, and I liked how the characters himself was all like fleshed out. I mean, you can tell that Bill like works really hard. There's a lot of flashback memories in between about their early days between Bill and Carrie and how they decided to have kids and how they tried to build their life with Bill as his pilot and Carrie staying home and doing her work sometimes with the kids. The motivation for the main villain, Sam, was kind of weak, I would say. Like, it was, I'm going to capture a plane and make the pilot crash the plane because the U.S. airstriked my people and left them to die, which is kind of a weak motivation if you ask me. It's just more of a revenge motivation. Excuse me. The twist in the beginnings about how there was a backup plan and how the co-pilot was also in on the schemes, that kind of threw me for a loop. There's a lot of other visual things that I really liked. This one was really good. Again, I thought towards the end it was kind of underwhelming. It kind of built up, and then the villain is just arrested. Or not, he's about to be arrested, then he just kind of shoots himself. I thought that was kind of stupid, not gonna lie, because again, it always seems that when the villains are always so close to justice, they either kill themselves or they're arrested and the court process has to go through. I can say from my own experience, when I wrote my book, the main villain was injured so much that he had no choice but to be arrested and put on trial, whereas the villain in this one following, Sam, he has the choice of either turn himself in or he shoots himself. And again, when he does that, he has 2 shots in the leg. He can't really go anywhere. But again, I just thought it was kind of weak how, he just kind of ends his life. The other co-pilot, I think his name is Ben, who ends up being bad. I think he ends up dying, and with a very gruesome death. Bill ends up taking a pen and like shoves it through his throat, which I thought was a great visual, but not a really great way to die. So I liked how that was satisfying, but I didn't like how Sam was just kind of like shot himself. Again, the motivations for why Sam and Ben collude together to hijack the plane is kind of stupid. But if you ain't past the stupid premise of just hijacking a plane because of pure revenge reasons, then this one is definitely one for you. You should definitely read it. I gave it a 4-star rating. I couldn't give it a 5, but I gave it a 4-star rating. I generally liked it. And again, it would be one of those ones I would probably read again if I had the time. Definitely not a last one at the wedding read over, but definitely I would read over. So those are the ones that I read in the month of May. So I read The Long Walk, I read The Remarkably Bright Creatures, The Last One at the Wedding, and Falling. So again, the beginning of the month was kind of weak, and then towards the end of the month, it's been kind of great. The book quality's been getting up, which is good, which is what I want. As of now, I've read at least 19 books for this year so far. So probably towards the end of the year, possibly in December, will be an end of the year video where I go over all the books that I read for the entire year and then what I hope to read for the next year. So what is next? Well, I told you guys about my novel. I told you about the Substack that's up right now. So what is next to read? Well, thankfully I have it right here, what I'm reading. I'm getting back into the world of fantasy. Yes, we're getting back into the world of fantasy. The Witchwood Crown by Tad Williams. This is the first of the Last King of Austin art series. This is the next that I'm going to be reading about. And I'm very excited because, again, I've read Tad Williams before. If you don't know anything by Tad Williams, he's probably one of my other favorite authors. He wrote the Otherland series, which is a sci-fi series about virtual reality and the dangers of virtual reality, and that one was really good to read. And then for The Last King of Austin, our universe, I guess you would say, I read his first series of that, which is called Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, which contains The Dragonbone Chair, The Stone of Farewell, and Green Angel Tower Part 1 and 2. I read those back in 2022, 2021. So again, it's been roughly 5 years since I picked up anything by Tad Williams. So again, I'm very excited to get back into his world and his mind, because his stuff is so well written, and I could probably do hundreds of videos, if not maybe hours of videos, on analyzing his stuff. So maybe that's what's coming down next. Again, I'll be reading those books, and there's a few other books that are on the shelf that are waiting in the wings that are going to be next. Who knows, maybe by the time we do the end of the month video for this month, for June, I'll probably still be reading Tad Williams, and I'll probably go over the first book that I've read, and I might make a whole 30-minute or an hour-long video going into the book, so I might have to better prepare for that. But other than that, I'm very excited to continue to read, and very excited to continue these videos. So if you liked this video and you want to see more, remember to hit the like, share, comment, subscribe to wherever you watch videos. Remember to grab my novel, Alan Notchwood and the Cathedral's Curse. It is out now on Amazon, both in print and ebook format. There will be links in the description for that. And there'll also be links to the Substack. Again, I'll be putting more of some of the other reviews that I'm not doing videos for on Substack, so you definitely need to check out that. And again, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing and liking, and I will see you all in the next video at the end of the month. Have a great day.